Okay, so we are doing the second, we're going to be doing the second, where's my picture of everyone gone? Can't see anyone anymore.
No, I've got a bookshelf and a parsha.
Okay, fine. So can you see me and hear me?
Yes, now I can see you.
Okay, fine. And can you see what I've shared with you?
I can't read it from here, but I can see it.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, so last time we discussed do not steal, and we discussed the different types of stealing. We spoke about stealing property, anything with value. We spoke about stealing das, taking people's appreciation or gratitude or respect in an unwarranted way. And then we spoke about kidnapping.
That would be flattery, right?
And sorry?
Flattery would be like taking das, right?
Yeah, flattery is Gnevas das. Exactly. Right. That's the problem with flattery. And then when we spoke about kidnapping, we asked this very simple question. When you're kidnapping, what's really being taken? And we said that, hang on one second, I gotta see, there's everyone. So why, if I share there, do I lose you? Understand this. Let me move this here. Go big. Share screen. Sharing there. I don't know why I lose you. Anyway, we said about kidnapping that a person's most basic right to control their own body is taken away from them. What are our physical rights? This includes the ability to move around freely and to be secure from assault, be it violent or sexual. That is a God-given right that every human being has. You can walk around freely, no one can stop where you're moving, unless it's their property, of course. And to be secure from assault, be it violent or sexual. And when you think about it in those terms, okay, so it's really taking away from a person, not so much their body, but their right, right? You're taking away their right. And I really wanted to explore that today. So let's go into what we call always the yesod, the underlying principle. That's how we get to what the underlying principles of the Ten Commandments are, as core values. Underlying the debate, do not steal, is the God-given ability or right to possess. We are in possessions of our bodies from the day we are born. No one owns us. And in possession of goodwill from the moment we can express it, right? So no one should steal that from us. We are able to acquire property from the time we can hold on to it. And we are able to create and own our own creations from our first creative moment. The Recanati writes that the right to freedom derives from the fact that humanity is made in the divine image, and as such is meant to freely exercise their will, as does the Almighty. And he's talking over here about free choice. But it's true about all unique human values and rights. So our ability to possess, where does it come from? Right? We're talking about do not steal. Do not steal is premised on this idea, this concept that we can possess. And we can even have individual, right? There's personal property is a Torah idea. You know, the communists really struggled with this idea as the root of all problems. There must be they saw real problems. There must be a different solution. But do not steal is really where we see, wait a second, people have the right to possess. And where does that right come from? It comes from the fact that we are made in the divine image. So the fact that, I can pick up the pen and it becomes mine and now it's associated to me it's under my control. And if you take it, you are violating that ability that I have, that right of possession, right? So when we talk about core values, we think about what is the principle or the core belief over here. The principle is that people because we are made b'tselem Elokim, because we are made in the image of God, we are entitled, we are able to possess. And once a person possesses, we have to respect that. So the respect for possession is really a respect of the inherent dignity of all people, right? It's a respect for who the people are. Now, look at this. This blows my mind. This was written in Baba Kama by Rabbi Yochanan. I mean, we're talking, 2,000 years ago. And Rabbi Yochanan says, anyone who steals from his friend, even a coin of the smallest value, it is as if he has taken away his life. Like it says, so are the ways of the thief. The soul of its owner he takes. Now, what do you think he means? Why? If I steal $5 from you, why am I stealing your soul? No, what do you think the answer is?
The last class we had, I was talking about violation of trust, violation of a sense of security. So maybe it's connected in that way.
Yeah, so what is it a violation of?
I mean, it almost seems to be making a connection that a person's property is bound with his soul.
How so? Because it's his soul. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's your soul which entitles you, which enables you to possess. And therefore, it's a violation of the soul. If I'm walking down the road and a dog has something, a stray dog has a piece of meat, and I take away the meat from the stray dog, I might not be nice. Am I stealing? Would the halacha say I'm stealing? No. The dog has no right to possession.
Right? He doesn't have a soul.
It doesn't have it doesn't have a tselem Elokim, exactly. It doesn't have the soul.
Do you have time for a question on this?
Yeah.
Slavery.
Sorry?
We've got laws about slavery.
So it's very interesting. Slavery,
I'm not talking about the willing slave. Let's talk about captives of war.
Right. So it comes out like this. It's very interesting. There's a very big difference between a Jewish slave and a non-Jewish slave. A Jewish slave, you do not own his body, right? You're not able to actually acquire his body. So in which sense is he a slave? It's really an indentured servant, which means he's prepaid, right? He sells himself into slavery in order to get a huge amount of money up front, normally in order to pay for a debt. Yeah, so that's what it says. If someone steals and he's sold into slavery, blah, blah, blah. What do you mean? So yes, he stole something, he's got a huge debt. The Beis Din can force him to sell himself into slavery to get that capital now, that huge amount of money to pay up his debt. Now he's indentured. Now he has to work for the person that he sold himself for. That person does not have the ownership over his self, over his body, but it has the ownership over his time because he prepaid for, you can sell your time. A non-Jew, one can actually one can purchase, or you're right, if they're captives or whatever, I'm not exactly sure of all those laws, but yes, you can take ownership of their body. Can you ever take ownership of someone's soul?
I do it all the time.
Right. Right. So yeah, I think this these next sources here go into this a little bit. Pirkei Avot says, be careful with other people's property as we are with our own, right? It's our own property. We understand that, as you said, it's connected to our soul. So is other people. Viktor Frankl, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Does that resonate with you?
That's a tough one. You know,
we're going through a big challenge. We're going through a big challenge now, right? That our regular freedoms have been taken away. We're in lockdown. We're in quarantine. Are we? You know, we don't have the freedom of movement we used to have. But do we have a free? Are we free to choose our attitude? Yes, Marcus. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing because I like to see you.
Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and you know, when in his meeting, I think it's called Man's Search, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, he talks. There you go, right? So, you know, that's. I mean, I think about how, like, when I get very antsy, I either need to drink some water or I need a cup of coffee, right? So, and I find that my emotional state is very physically dependent, and I ask myself, in what way are my attitudes a choice when they're so physically dependent? And I can't imagine what it's like to be under the boots of a Nazi in a concentration camp and being able to choose positivity over otherwise.
Right.
I believe it. I believe it exists, and I just a statement like Viktor Frankl's tells me where I'm at and what I should be capable of.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point. Mark, what do you say?
Sorry?
What do you say? Are you always free to choose your attitude?
Look, I think you can choose the way that you respond or the way that you behave, but I think it's very difficult to really dictate about what kind of frame of reference you're going to be in. I mean, so I'm a bit torn in trying to answer this. So I think in one way, you can control how you behave, but there's no ways you can control what's being thrown at you. It's something
I think that's consistent with what he's saying. He's saying that at the end of the day, people can take away a lot of things, right? Your situation, where you are, how they treat you. But you can always choose your attitude of how you respond. Meaning, given your limitations, of course, right? You're you know, in a Nazi concentration camp, you have one set of limitations. In quarantine, you have another set of limitations. In normal life, you have another set of limitations. So given the possibilities, you can choose to view it you're free to view it the way that you want to. Would you agree with that?
You know, yes. Well, I think that's the same thing as I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's very consistent with what he says, right? It's so, you know, I think what we need to bear in mind, and what Marcus is saying is, you know, sometimes, you know, we're feeling antsy or whatever. You know, if I get hungry, I get in a bad mood. You know, I just know. My head and my heart are connected to my stomach. It's just the way I'm made. So, you know, I need to eat. And if I don't eat, I'm like really, I'm angry.
You're hangry.
I'm hungry.
Hangry.
So, I think, you know, we have to adopt over here what Rabbi Dessler says. Rabbi Dessler says there's something called a free choice point or range. You know, let's take us today. You know, we all Torah scholars, right? How much did we learn today? Did any, you know, we've been up quite a few hours. Are any of us going to even attempt to learn more than 10 hours today? No. On the other hand, we're all here learning Torah, so we've committed to at least, half an hour. None of us woke up this morning and said, I couldn't care and I'm not going to learn today. So our free choice is a range, meaning in any given situation, you have a range of choices, right? Let's take Torah learning, right? You could learn on any given day, half an hour to 3 hours. You're probably not going to do more than ever 3. You're probably never going to do less than half an hour. I don't know. I'm just, I'll speak for myself. That's probably true. So, says Rav Dessler, you need to make your choices within your range. But if you consistently keep on making the choice to learn 3 hours a day, right? You push yourself to your max. I'm going to learn 3 hours a day and you keep on doing it, something magical happens. And that is that the possibility of learning more than 3 hours will open up for you. So meaning you've moved your range, right? You always have a certain range of, from there to there, what are you going to choose? But where is that? And what's interesting, he says, is, some people are born here and some people are born there, Some people, we lost Mark. I must have bored him. Some people are born into the Rosh Yeshiva's family, right? And the Frum family, and it's just the way of life that they learn. So he's choosing between 6 and 9 hours a day. The truth is that that's no more meaningful than the person that grew up here that is choosing between 0 and 1 hour a day, because that's where they were born. What's meaningful is that you keep on making the good decision, that you move your, what he calls the kudat bechira, your point of free will up all the time. That's growth. Growth means that you keep on making decisions that open up new vistas of choice. So I think that's also true for when I think of this Viktor Frankl, that we are free to choose, but we're not 100% free to choose, right? It's very hard for me to choose that, coronavirus is the best thing that happened to the world. I can't see it that way. I can try to look for the positive aspects in it, to see what, another thing he said was, don't ask what you want from the world, ask what the world wants from you. So there's certain opportunities now. I spend a lot of time with my wife. I never knew really who she was, right?
Yes.
Amazing. So I've got opportunities. I've got opportunities to be more loving, caring, a better husband than ever before. My children or whatever. I also have certain challenges that might come my way. So that's where we need to kind of focus on what's the range that I'm dealing with, right? What are my possibilities? Right? I think anyway, we should always ask ourselves, what's the best realistic choice I could make right now? Right? When I'm hungry, the best realistic choice is often to keep quiet. Right? Because whatever I'm going to say is going to be just harsh and nasty and not good. Right? Once I've eaten, my choices change. I could be very pleasant and nice and charismatic, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Any comments?
Yeah, I think I'll second that about being quiet when I need a drink of water.
Okay, good. Let's go on in our booklet. Is dismissing someone stealing their dignity? I think so. It's theft. Can you steal someone's sense of dignity, happiness, or self-worth? Does the emphasis on preserving human dignity in relationship to the things we own, in fact, cause materialism or self-centeredness? It's an interesting question, right? Do not steal. Are we placing too much emphasis on people, on things? No, I don't think so. I think it just has to be taken within context. It is the core value. It is this core value which tells us to respect people's bodily rights and personal space. Sexual abuse, in addition to physical pain, is so bad because it's a violation of human dignity. it reduces a person to subhuman status. You know, unfortunately, there's been a lot of domestic abuse in all the lockdown throughout all these countries. What attitudes in society have precipitated the Me Too movement at this time? Do you think it is a useful way of and paradigm for viewing abuse, physical abuse, to seeing as theft of dignity?
Yeah.
I think it really speaks to what it is. You know, it's good to chap what something is. Yeah, I don't want that, right? That would be terrible I don't want anyone to violate my dignity. Okay, what motivates a person in various types of theft? Reflect upon the use of power underlying our discussion. Our dignity is related to a sense of power. You can think about that. Okay, the last section, appreciation. It's a privilege to possess things. However, having the right to possess means not only that we can own and control things, but also we should use them for good. Rabbi Levi said, it says, the one pasuk says, La Hashem ha'aretz ha'malua, the earth and all of its content and all it contains is the Lord's. Everything belongs to God. And then we said yesterday on Shabbos, we said, Shemaim, Shemaim, Hashem ha'aretz, the heavens are the Lord's, but the earth He gave to mankind. So the earth belongs to God, or does the earth belong to mankind? It says Rabbi Levi, it's not difficult. Here, the verse that says the earth belongs to the Lord refers to a situation before a blessing is recited. Here, when He gave the earth to mankind, refers to after a blessing. Kan koidem bracha, kan la'acha bracha.
I think there's a very strong implication that the purpose of our possessions are for the sake of elevating God's intentions in creation.
Right? Isn't that what it's saying?
I think that's it.
Yeah. To me, if God's giving this to me, why is He giving it to me? Obviously to use for something elevated. Imagine every time you said a bracha, you really brought this into your consciousness a bit and said, oh, I'm about to eat food. Wow, God's giving me food in order that I should be nourished, in order that I should be healthy to, I guess there are two aspects. One is within the very act of eating and the pleasure that we get, one can acknowledge God. I think that's an important purpose in life, is to have that awareness and come to that acknowledgement. And then the purpose for why it's being done is the second one, to, like you said, to elevate, to use that energy for elevated and meaningful actions. Okay, how integration? What does this diber mean to us as a core value? When can it be applied? What are the challenges you will face? How can you overcome them? How is this diber? Do not steal, which I called in the beginning priceless possessions, and the reason why I used that was to show or to hint to the fact that people's possessions are bound up with their tselem elokim, with their soul, and it's part of human dignity to own things, and to respect that is to do not steal. Really tells me acknowledge the dignity in each person, at least in the vis-a-vis the ability to possess. So what does that mean to you, and where can you see applying that in your life?
Well, for me, two things came up. One is the matter of dismissing people. I know what it feels like to be dismissed when really all you want is to be heard. And that's a really tough one. And at the same time, I'm guilty of doing the same thing to others. And the other thing is, it reminds me of one of the earlier sessions that you mentioned about taking a commandment and understanding the inverse of the commandment, being, don't murder, right? That would be respect life, right? Or don't be jealous.
Right.
That would be, be happy.
Right.
So the lesson that I'm taking back, 'in this particular diber is I have possessions there are certain things that I own. How can I use them as a means to elevate? You know, how can I use them? How can I use them as a means of bringing blessing into the world? That's not just making a blessing on an apple for you eat, but the stapler, for example. You know, what am I going to staple that's going to bring more godliness into this world?
And the truth is that you could think about it. I love that. And, you know, I've never really got to that thought of, you know, not doing that in a sense is stealing from God. Hang on a second. You know, that's really the depth of the Gemara. It's very powerful. You know, it's very extreme. But
well, it seems like it would be something worth writing down somewhere that you would see. Like, how can I use my possessions as an act of elevation?
Right. Yeah, recognizing possessions as an act of elevation for myself and for others. So then if you took it away from another person, you've really, you know, it's quite significant. Well, hang on a second, that what they had was for them to elevate. You know, you're kind of stealing a bit of their purpose away from them. And Mark from South Africa, what do you have to say about all of this?
Okay, I'm here. Kind of got distracted by Maya when I walked downstairs now and found her downstairs. So excuse me, I got distracted. But I think in terms of possessions and respecting people, I think from a perspective of, you know, we own our stuff kind of thing. So what I have is mine and it's meant to be mine. My perspective on things mine because it's what I've been exposed to. Like you, Rob, have been exposed to certain learning. So you've got a perspective and you've got to let people own their own perspectives and not try and change them or think that you're smarter than them. So it's about tolerating other people's points of views, where they're at, where they're coming from, if you can kind of hear what I'm saying. That's the theme that I was thinking of.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Right, it's part of like Geneva Dot. Don't steal another person's, not only goodwill, but their perspective on life. You know, don't take that away from them. They're kind of entitled to that. Nice.
Yeah, and then also for us to realize that sometimes, you ask, what are we going to take out of it? Is sometimes you've got such an agenda to really believe that what you think is true. So what do? You go out and you convince people around you to share your perspective with you. And I think that, you know, one of the things that we need to try and learn is to be more comfortable with who we are and what we choose and believe, just because that's the way we are. And not to need to convince other people, to rather use their point of view to your benefit and vice versa. Just try and share with people. Don't try and change it.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be considered Geneva if you try? Well, how about this, for example? You know, speaking about somebody else's beliefs. What if I was to go up to a Christian, for example, and just try to give him all the proofs why he shouldn't believe what he believes?
Well, I don't think that's our job as Jews to really go and do that to the Christians. So I think we've got to work within a framework of halakha.
Well, how about a Jew? What about a non-religious Jew?
Well, I mean, the whole way that you do kiruv is not through judging or trying to tell people that, you know, they should absorb your point of view. You have to learn from the other person's perspective. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have an objective, but it's the way that you're going to get there that's important.
I think you know, in terms of this, it's a good way to look at it. You know, you would have to find a common goal, right? You'd have to find a common goal of, hey, why don't you and I, let's collaborate to find truth. And then you have to be as open as they are, right? And it could be that at the end, you just, you know, there's certain things you can't move away from, but at least your agenda is to find truth together. I think that would be a much more healthy way of, you know, trying to convince someone of something that you're convinced about.
Right.
You know, then you're not stealing. We're working together. Yeah. That's great. That's forever.
I've had a conversation with Arabs, Muslim Arabs in Jerusalem, And I think that's the, if you take that attitude, that's actually something of mutual respect. You know, like,
Yeah.
look, you think what you think because maybe you know something I don't. I think what I think maybe because I know something that you don't. Let's talk to each other. Granted, I haven't spent lots of time in these conversations, but there's always good feelings associated with that attitude being mutually held.
Right. And I think it's fair to say, I would think more about this, but I think it's fair to say, listen, the end of the day, I highly doubt that you're going to move me off my convictions. You know, that I'm pretty ingrained here, but I'm open to exploring. You know, maybe there's a question that you raise that I can't answer that will, you know, I'm prepared to take that risk. All right, friends. Very good. Thank you.